Hello, welcome back to A Spiritual Ascension, my 5-year journey, where I'm telling my entire story of how I came to go through an entire 5-year ascension journey and what I went through during that time, and kind of talking right now about things that happened beforehand that led up to that, and then later on I'll be talking about where I am now. My journey went from exactly 5 years, April 20th of 2020 to April of 2025, exactly 5 years, almost to the date. Um, I was led by Spirit to tell my story. It's a very difficult story, so bear with me as I go through this. It's not easy to reveal some of the things that I went through, I experienced. So, but I think it's important to tell my story because many of you, although will be on a different path, are on a different path and will experience a different type of journey. Just knowing that if you are ascending, you will go through many challenges. Okay. But always know that there's light on the other side. So I think, and hopefully also you're watching this in its entirety because I'm kind of, um, sometimes I forget different points to bring up in one video. So I'm kind of going back and revisiting those things. So if you kind of start from the intro to know, and then go through each video to kind of know, what I'm talking about at that time. So when I left off, I had gone to see a psychic medium, Sam Daniels, in New York, who had told me to, well, through my father. My father told me through Sam to go and kind of reignite my spiritual gifts. And in that session, my father and my grandmother gave me so much information about things that I needed to go ahead and do and accomplish. And they told me to contact the ARE of New York, the Edgar Casey Center, which I went on the website, and it just happened that they were introducing their first um, psychic skills class. And if you go on their website now, my teacher, my instructor, is still offering this class to that day, but that was their very first class back in 2017. I'll talk more about that. Um, Also, there was more specific instructions as far as my father. I had worked on Wall Street for, at that time, it was getting close to 20 years. And he said to me, "You're going to be leaving your job." And I'm like, leaving my job, like I need my income. You cannot work and live in New York City without a good income. This is very expensive. So I'm like, how am I going to do that? And um, he also told me to go to the New Hampshire Maine border. And that just kind of seemed out of the blue because I grew up in New Jersey. I lived, by that time, I had lived in New York City for close to 15 years. And like New Hampshire, Maine just seemed, you know, kind of out of the blue. Even if I thought about my retirement at that time, I had no idea. I wasn't even thinking that far ahead of where I wanted to go. Most people, my manager at the time, she had just bought a house in Florida, and most people go to Florida or somewhere down south for retirement. And I had even said to my father and my grandmother in spirit, during this session, they said, actually, they asked me, they said, "Where would you like to go?" And like live out the rest of your life. And I was thinking, and I knew I didn't want to stay in New York or be in New Jersey. Um, and I always had liked our my grandmother's family is from Virginia. Virginia's beautiful. Um, so I said, well, maybe Virginia. And it's so funny. My grandmother said to me, again, and she's in spirit, said to me, she says, you don't like the heat. And I was like, yeah, I don't like the heat. I don't like the heat. And she said, that's when they told me to go to the New Hampshire Maine border. And I said, like, first of all, you say I'm going to leave my job. And then second of all, you're telling me to go up north, where like I love New England. Um, and like that's the probably if I could pick the most beautiful, well, I love Montana and Colorado and those places, the mountains and stuff like that. But that small town feel, the kind of old country field, New England always reminded me of that. But I had my grandmother had been brought up in Virginia, and my roots kind of, I believe my grandfather, I'm not sure, my maternal grandfather may have come from Virginia also, but I'm not positive on that one. Um, so I think I don't know, let me just check instructions. I have to write down things. Oh, okay. So another important thing. So this is going to, later on, this is really going to matter. They had also, so as Sam's talking to me, he says they're saying something about Naples. And I'm like, Naples? And the only Naples I had ever heard of was in Florida. And my grandfather had come from Florida. So I'm saying, well, maybe it has something to do with his area or something. He goes, I don't know what that means, but he says they're saying something about Naples. So kind of, went out of my mind, but okay, Naples. Um, so the classes were once a month for during a weekend. So Saturday and Sunday, it was a full weekend, full day, like from 9 to 5, I think, Saturday and Sunday, of just learning to bring out your psychic skills and just being so surprised, like a little frustrated at first, also learning about energy, that everything is energy. And um, I remember one of the first things she did with us was she put half of us in another room and the other half stayed in that room. And she showed us a picture. Well, the people in one room, she showed us a picture. And we were supposed to like really take in that picture. And then within our mind, kind of send out the signal of that picture to the people in the other room. So say it was um, a yellow duckling, right? Um, the thing is, our mind will pick up images of, so when you're doing, what's the word? I'm sorry. I don't like to prepare. I like to just be able to speak to you guys. Um, when you're doing telepathy, thank you. Spirit's helping me here. Telepathy, your mind picks up symbols. Okay. That's why the universe uses symbols to help you recognize different things to understand. For instance, just the other day, the building that I live in, I noticed I can see the parking lot. And I noticed people were like randomly leaving their doors open and going inside. And then a couple of hours later, they would realize they left one of the doors on their car open and come out and close it. So that happened like two, three times. And I'm saying, what is that? And but the thing is, that's a way of the universe using different symbols to say that doors are opening for you, you know? And once you get to a certain level and you have your own language with the universe, you're going to understand how the universe speaks to you. Another example is um, I can also see a field across the way where there's deer there. And I usually will see a deer moving in the field and it's kind of moving away from me. Um, but for this day, I saw a small, I guess a fawn, right? Coming towards me, which I've never seen a baby deer in the field there. And it was coming towards me. So when you think about the symbols, this is a new baby, right? Um, Babies represent newness, new beginnings, right? Um, and also, it was coming towards me instead of going away from me. So, one of the symbols that the universe has given me that means movement is whenever I see a deer, that means there's going to be some kind of movement in my life. And to see this deer coming towards me, and it was a baby deer, that means that there was some kind of new movement coming towards me. So maybe a new opportunity, something new was coming towards me. Okay. So it's just an example to you. These are what spirit has given to me. But as you go along, you're going to start to develop your own symbols, um, signs that the universe will develop along with you. Okay, so that's really important. That's why I always say to everyone, journal. I journal every day for at least an hour or more whenever I have the opportunity or something comes to mind. Because later on, I'm going to say, that happened, or I thought about that. And I can flip back and say, wow, like this came to be, you know? All right, totally forgot where I left off at. Um, oh, we were talking about in the classroom, just trying to watch my time. Um, so watching this yellow duckling on this board and then sending out signal to the other room. So they're going to pick up maybe not a duck, like a yellow duck or a baby duck, but it's a duckling, right? They'll pick up maybe the color yellow, right? So yellow, they might see, to them, they may associate yellow with a sunshine, right? Or what else is yellow? Um, or a lemon, you know? Um, or they may just see a bird flying. They know it was some kind of bird, right? So that's kind of how the symbols come across to you. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple more examples um, with how things happen for us as far as using our psychic abilities. Another thing that like really totally blew my mind, like in the first, few classes, we sat in a circle. I think there's about five of us, and she told the first person to think of a color. So we're kind of in this, kind of meditative, loose mode. And she told one person to think of a color and just the other ones to kind of clear their mind. So now we're talking about energy, right? To push the energy towards this person, towards your left, and allow that person to pick up the color that person was thinking of. Now, once they pick it up, to send it to the next person. And I think I was the last person because I was sitting next to the person. And when it came through, and then at the end, the person said, she said, okay, what color did you send out? And I believe it was orange. And I was like, oh my goodness, because orange came through in my mind. And I was like, oh my good. I was like just floored. So that's why I'm saying that um, we all have abilities um, because we're all connected to the universe. Okay. We are all one. Okay. And as much as we don't see that we're all separate people, there's many videos on understanding that we are all part of the divine. Okay, so we are all divine beings, and that's how we're all connected. I'll probably go into that more because it takes a lot kind of to put a grasp on it, but whoever, if you understand what I'm talking about, you'll know. Okay. But we see ourselves as individuals with our own egos and our own lives and things like that. Even within families, we're all separate people, right? But just the fact that we are all connected to the divine, we are all part of the universe, and that this all wasn't by chance. Okay. And leave it there. If you would like to talk about your own journey or talk to me more about my journey, there's a link below to book time with me. If you would like a reading, there's also, you can also book time with me for that. I've also done several courses on the Ascension journey, and the link is below for that also. Okay, I'll see you next time.